When people talk about the greatest guitarist of all time, names like Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck are usually among the first mentioned. But ask guitar players, and another name often enters the conversation very quickly: Gary Moore. Gary was one of those rare musicians who seemed capable of playing anything: hard rock, blues, jazz fusion, heavy metal, melodic instrumentals. Whatever style he touched, he brought incredible technique, passion, and emotion. In this video, I'm taking a deep dive into the music of Gary Moore through 5 tracks and periods of his career that have always stood out to me. As with my previous deep dives, I am staying away from the obvious hits and singles. Instead, we're looking at some songs and recordings that perhaps don't get discussed quite as often, but reveal just how extraordinary Gary Moore really was. So let's get started. It's impossible to talk about Gary Moore without mentioning his long friendship and musical partnership with Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy. Gary's relationship with the band was famously off and on throughout the years, but he contributed greatly to the Thin Lizzy story and shared a creative bond with Lynott that produced some fantastic music. Now, my first choice is Gary Moore's version of Don't Believe a Word. Originally recorded by Thin Lizzy for the Johnny the Fox album in 1976, Gary completely reinvented the song when he recorded it for his 1978 album, Back on the Streets. Instead of the hard-rocking Lizzy original, Gary slows things down and transforms it into a bluesy ballad.
Don't believe me if I tell you, not a word of this is true. Don't believe me if I tell you, especially if I tell you that I'm in love with you. Don't believe me if I tell you.
The track opens with Gary and Phil sharing vocal duties.
Don't believe a word. Words are only spoken, and our heart is like a promise meant to be broken.
Before eventually building into a powerful rock groove. And if you've only heard the studio version, I highly recommend checking out some of the live performances. In my opinion, the song becomes even more powerful on stage. Before Gary became known as a solo artist, he spent time in one of the most technically demanding bands of his career, Colosseum 2. And my next song comes from that era. The band was formed by drummer John Heisman in 1975. The band combined rock, jazz fusion, and progressive music into something truly unique. Alongside Gary was keyboard player Don Airey, who would later go on to play with Rainbow, Osbourne, and Deep Purple. For many guitar fans, this period represents Gary Moore at his most technically impressive. The featured track from this era is the song I Am, which perfectly demonstrates the combination of technical brilliance and raw energy that made Colosseum 2 so special. The music demanded everything from a guitarist. We have complex time signatures, lightning fast unison runs, jazz-inspired improvisation, intricate arrangements, incredible picking accuracy. Yet all of this complexity, Gary never lost his rock attitude. His tone remained aggressive, powerful, and full of emotion. Albums such as Strange New Flesh, Electric Savage, and War Dance showcase a guitarist operating at an astonishing level. I actually remember buying Electric Savage after hearing a few tracks on the radio. At the time, I had no idea it was Gary Moore playing the guitar. I just like, this is one hotshot guitarist. Looking back now, it's fascinating to hear a side of Gary that many blues players have never discovered. Next track sees us moving into the 1980s. Gary's music becomes heavier and more aggressive, and one of the best examples is Lead Clones, taken from the 1984 album Victims of the Future. The track also features Ozzy Osbourne on vocals and immediately shows a different side of Gary Moore. The title track is a tongue-in-cheek reference to bands that were attempting to copy the sound and style of Led Zeppelin during that era. But while the song has a sense of humour, the playing is absolutely serious. The riffs are huge, the guitar tone is massive, and Gary's lead work is simply explosive. These days, Gary is often remembered primarily as a blues guitarist, but songs like Lead Clones remind us that he also was one of the finest hard rock players in the 1980s. Track number 4, you might say, yes, this is a well-known track, but if there is one instrumental that perfectly captures Gary Moore's ability to communicate through the guitar, it is The Loner. Originally appearing on the Wild Frontier album back in 1987, this remains one of the most emotional guitar instrumentals ever recorded. No vocals, no lyrics, no distractions, just Gary Moore and a guitar telling a story. The song begins quietly before gradually building into a soaring emotional peak. His Les Paul almost sounds like a human voice singing every phrase. What makes the Lorna so special is that it isn't built around speed or technical fireworks. It's built around feeling. Every bend seems to cry out. Every sustained note has a meaning. Many guitarists can impress you with speed. Very few can move you with a single note. For me, the Lorna represents Gary Moore at his absolute best. Track number 5. We are heading to the late 1980s. Gary had grown increasingly frustrated with the direction of hard rock and heavy metal. In the 1980s, he returned to that music that inspired him from the beginning, the blues. The result was Still Got the Blues, an album that completely transformed his career and introduced him to an entirely new audience. While the title track gets most of the attention, one of the standout moments from this era is Midnight Blues. This song perfectly demonstrates Gary's ability to blend blues feeling with rock intensity.
It's the darkest hour of the darkest night.
Unlike the technical works of the Colosseum 2 years, Midnight Blues is all about space, phrasing, and emotion. Solos breathe. The notes have room to develop. Nothing feels rushed. You can hear influences from players like Peter Green and B.B. King, but at the same time, the sound is unmistakably Gary Moore. Nobody sounded quite like him. One thing that often gets overlooked when discussing Gary Moore is just how incredible he was as a live performer. The studio recordings were fantastic, but live was where Gary truly came alive. Given the freedom of a concert stage, he could take a song somewhere completely different every night. Thankfully, thanks to YouTube and social media, many of these performances are still available for us to enjoy today. I'll leave links to some of my personal favourites below because they showcase a side of Gary Moore that every guitarist should experience. So those are my Gary Moore deep dive selections. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What are your favourite Gary Moore songs, albums, or performances? Perhaps you've chosen something completely different. Let me know in the comments and let's celebrate the music of one of the greatest guitarists ever to pick up the instrument. Gary Moore was more than just a great guitarist. He was a complete musician whose playing combined technique, tone, and emotion in a way very few artists have ever achieved. And for that reason, there will never be another guitarist quite like Gary Moore.